Hallo, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Khush Amdeed. Ji aaya nu. Goedemorgen.
Bakhair Agale, Ni Hao, Churashume, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen, Ola, Bojor, Privyat, Kaifahal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Balli Karaya, Washmale, and thank you very much for tuning into PT World, ladies and gentlemen. You watching World this morning alongside the very fantastic, the very energetic, the very amazing Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan on a fine Tuesday morning over here in Islamabad. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking, like you always do. What about you? Are you feeling any better than yesterday?
Yes, I think Alhamdulillah I'm feeling much better as well. As of, if I have to compare my situation, how I was feeling on Monday and rather how I'm feeling on Tuesday, I think, ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, will definitely take away a lot of marks over here because I feel wonderfully well as well, and that Tuesday is actually closer to Friday. I think that's one reason why I'm feeling great as well.
Maybe your sickness yesterday, on a lighter note though, was just about Monday. It was Monday blues.
No, well,
I know you know the time.
Yeah, I hate to say this as well, but ladies and gentlemen, I think that this is something which is actually going to help everybody who's out there as well. That it's just having cheat codes to your brain. For example, when it's Monday and you know that it's Monday, or you have to go back to work and it's going to be a 5-day long week. So you have this cheat code in your head that as soon as it's going to be Thursday and Friday, you're going to feel great. So I don't believe in having cheat codes. I believe in that whatever way the situation is going to come to you, make sure that you handle it that way. What about you? How do you feel about Monday?
Like I said yesterday as well, ever since I'm not a student anymore, I think I don't mind Mondays as well. Because the type of work that you and I do, Shahzad, we enjoy doing it, right?
Exactly.
We love preparing for it. We love discussing about it and then coming and showing up every other day and then sharing our knowledge and information that we have with you. We love doing it.
Exactly, wonderful.
Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, there was something that I read early in the morning and it sort of stayed with me.
Yeah.
Now, if maybe I cannot recall the exact words, but the theme of it was that whenever you're going through a hardship or you're going through any bad situation going on in your life, you tend to naturally blame it either on people or either question God about what you did wrong, or maybe he's angry with you and whatnot. But maybe, your situation of being in a bad place is prolonged because God wants you to be at his door for so long.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing?
Exactly.
Being humans, I think naturally we just tend to take hardships as, there's a connotation to it as something wrong. But maybe it's not wrong after all. We're being prepared for something even better.
Well, I'm actually going to relate it with a few things which I've heard over a period of my life as well, and that is, they say, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very famous saying as well. They say that, when a person is actually crying, a person is actually seeking for forgiveness, and when he's praying, and he keeps on doing that every single day, the angels actually say to Allah Almighty that, your man down there is actually crying, he's seeking for your forgiveness and help. Allah in return replies that, I'm just loving the way he's asking for whatever he's asking for. So, maybe probably another day or 2 days or 3 days, and then obviously all your prayers are answered, ladies and gentlemen, but they're answered in a way where it is better for you to have those prayers answered in life. God forbid if there's something you're asking for and it might not be good for you, is something which you might not get as well. But for everybody to be out there and to have this faith in Allah Almighty that, whatever we're going to pray, we're going to get it. If it's going to be, if it's going to play a very positive role in our life, obviously they will be answered. And I think every other person should actually pray for every other person as well.
Yes, that's what I was kind of going to say as well, since we are going through this pandemic for so long, almost in the half of the year, right? We're really sort of done with it, but this is not done with us. So please remember each and every single person in your prayers, especially from the Muslim Ummah. And speaking of the pandemic, Shahzad, so there was a tweet that I came across, this was probably last week. A young doctor actually wrote, this was really heart-wrenching. She said that a 21-year-old guy came into the hospital with a heart attack.
21-year-old?
Yes, and imagine, I cannot even put the thought to actual realization. 21-year-old coming in with a heart attack in a very, very bad condition, goes on to be in a critical condition for so many days, and he had the coronavirus. And then I read up upon it, and ever since April, news are coming in of, people who have developed the virus, of them getting probably heart attack or any sort of heart diseases. There are so many reasons. Some say that the virus makes the blood clot, or some say it's the adrenaline rush, some say it's tension, stress, whatnot. So it's not just the virus alone that's going to get to you. The stress is really going to get to you as well.
Exactly.
And heart disease as well, they are the most common diseases all over the world anyway, and now even they are exacerbated. We really hope, I mean, things get better for everyone out there as
Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. We obviously have experts over here in the studios who are actually going to shed light on whether COVID can actually make you end up having a heart attack or a stroke as well. But why are we talking about this topic? There's a reason behind it, that today on 29th of September, ladies and gentlemen, it happens to be World Heart Day as well, and it comes up with theme where the theme says that, you know, we really need to scale up prevention of heart attack and strokes as well. Now over here, there's a bit of confusion, you know, when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, ladies and gentlemen, obviously that's going to be a very different branch of diseases as well. But when we talk about coronary diseases, one way or the other, a person like me, a layman like me will actually be like, you know, okay, one way or the other, they are related. Right. But are they really related? And then, you know, having this question to ourselves as well, that God forbid, you know, if our heart rhythm is different, or God forbid if we feel that, you know, there's something wrong with our heart, the first test we're going to get done is angiography. Right. And then there are a lot of reservations by the doctors as well, and then there are things which we are unable to figure out as of now. Yeah. So today we're going to speak about it. It's because over here in Pakistan, we have got high salt consumption, we have anxiety, we have got hypertension, we have got blood pressure, we have sedentary lifestyles. People over here are smokers quite a lot. And not just that, I think we really need to talk about all of those people who consume alcohol too as well on daily basis as well. How is it actually going to make us end up, God forbid, with a heart attack or a stroke? How can we avoid that? All of these questions will be answered today.
Right, so you have to really stay tuned for the entire show because, well, these are some of the FAQs, right? These questions come into your mind every single day. So without further ado, I think we shall be introducing the guests over here.
Exactly. So ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that on this day, you know, these gentlemen have actually taken out time so that they can shed more light onto these cardiovascular diseases. And not just that, let us know about the common myths and, you know, what are the common mistakes people make as well in figuring out whether there is something wrong with them or not. So first up, ladies and gentlemen, he happens to be a consultant cardiologist from Shifa International Hospital. He is Dr. Habibur Rahman Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thanks, and nice being here on your show today.
Thank you very much, sir. Jazakallah. Thank you very much for joining us. And alongside Dr. Habibur Rahman, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a consultant cardiologist from Shifa International Hospital, a good-looking gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, he is Dr. Saeedullah Shah Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam. Good morning to you too.
Sanjay sir, thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. So, sir, I'm going to get the conversation started with you. Obviously, there's a confusion in between cardiovascular diseases and then when we talk about coronary diseases as well. What the difference is, something which we want to hit on. But very quickly, sir, is there any connection in between COVID and increasing rate of heart attacks? Because 17.9 million people die of heart attacks every single year.
Yes, there is. It's an infection, we all know. COVID is an infection. But it sets all your body on fire. Okay. So, because blood circulates in the blood vessels, and blood vessels supply blood to the brain, to the heart. You know, the heart muscle gets blood supply through the coronary arteries. So, if there is a clotting tendency that comes from COVID, it's going to shut off the coronaries and cause a heart attack.
All right.
Oh.
Or it's directly going to hit the heart muscle, which gets weak, and the pumping is severely affected. And same way, stroke, the arteries going up and supplying blood to the brain. If there's a blood clot that forms in those arteries, you are going to get a stroke. And unfortunately, that happens in very young also, as you just mentioned. Dr. Saeedullah Shah was just telling me about a young man who is on dialysis, and he has terrible heart condition because of COVID. Oh. So the answer is yes, it does happen. But there is another element of COVID that we need to be aware of. Sure. People stopped going to the hospitals, even in cardiac emergencies and with stroke. And that caused a lot of devastation. We need to know, as you just mentioned, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer.
Okay.
Of all the deaths across the globe, about a third, 31%, are thought or known to be caused by stroke and cardiovascular disease.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep up the preventive approach as well as the curative approach when the disease does strike you.
Yeah.
COVID should not stop you from seeking appropriate treatment.
Exactly, that's wonderful. Very quickly moving on to Dr. Saeed Saab over here. So Saeed Saab over here, I'm very sorry that I actually have to say that, but over here in Pakistan, we do not have this trend of going or visiting the doctor after every 6 months and getting ourselves checked up, getting ourselves tested, just like people do with NHS and elsewhere in the world. They have this trend where people will go and make sure that whether they are healthy or not. Over here, we do it the other way, that okay, God forbid, if you're going to go to the doctor, he might figure out there's something wrong with us. So we do not even go to the doctor. Eventually, what I've seen is, since we are talking about 31% of the total deaths all over the world are because of heart attack and strokes, how do you think people over here, kind of come across? Because usually when people come to you guys, I think it's already very late, and it's so hard for them to actually look for a solution that unfortunately, they do not have much time left on their watch as well. So how do you think that people in the first place really need to behave? What are the early symptoms? What are those normal life habits which, God forbid, may lead us towards heart attack and strokes?
Right, thank you. What has happened is, because of the lifestyle changes and because of our inability to adapt to a lot of things in life, things have changed a bit. Our disease, what we call South Asian disease, is very aggressive. We are talking of diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. It comes early. So when you go to the West and you go to the wards or CCU, the average age is usually in 60s.
Right.
Here we see our patients younger than that. And as you mentioned, we are seeing patients in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
So there is something terribly wrong going on. We do not have a primary care system. As you just mentioned, the general practice, we have a National Health Service in the UK or in family physician in the United States, etc. So the consultant sitting in the hospital, he is the primary, secondary and tertiary physician. And as you rightly said, by the time they get to you, it's usually too late.
Yeah.
The time to intervene actually starts from the birth, from home actually, and what has happened is the homes have transformed. The diet has changed. Children are not encouraged to take healthy diet, not take up exercise, and obviously with this invasion of electronic media and social media, children no longer do exercises, etc. Hence, obesity is setting in. Obesity brings with it, as we would talk about later, insulin resistance, and then all the plethora, all those things which are associated, which would be early diabetes, cholesterol issues, and heart attacks, hypertension, etc. So it's just happening, and we're seeing it, and until and unless we go to the main issue, which is the preventive side, and that is when we should intervene, and that will cut down a significant load at the hospitals.
All right.
Right, and we definitely need to talk in detail about how we can prevent, of course, heart diseases. One of the main factors, like you mentioned, being bad lifestyle or bad dietary habits as well. And I think this is in line with the day that we are observing internationally today. Today happens to be the awareness about food loss and waste. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that each year thousands, actually millions of tons of food is wasted, and now especially that we have been going through a pandemic, the WFP reported that in the worst hit areas like Yemen and adjacent areas, expectedly around 600,000 children will die because there is no food there for them. So we have a small report actually to let you know about how much food we waste on a daily or an annual basis and how actually we can stop doing that. Let's take a look at it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
This year, we celebrate the first ever observance of the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. It also comes during the global COVID-19 pandemic that has brought about a global wake-up on the need to transform and rebalance the way of our food is produced and consumed. The COVID-19 pandemic continues generating significant challenges to food security in many countries. Distributions and supply chains, quarantine measures, the closure of much of the hospitality industry and schools. All these measures have resulted in a loss of markets for producers and distributors, making the situation even more challenging while dealing with high level of food waste. At the downstream end of the supply chain, the panic buying by consumers, supermarkets, which are often key donors to food banks, struggle to keep their shelves stocked and are unable to donate food. Meanwhile, much of the food purchased by households was discharged as food waste because of a misunderstanding of date marking and improper storage of these households' food items. We need to be aware of the importance of the issue of food loss and waste now more than ever in order to promote and implement our global efforts towards resolving it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was a small report, but very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I think we really need to be thankful if we have food in our places as well or at our homes. Please make sure that we do not waste food because there are a lot of people who are sleeping hungry as well. But on this day, I think I would actually mention about this initiative taken by a student of LUMS, where they collect all the food from restaurants and give it to the needy or the poor ones who are actually in need, and this needs to be done. But very quickly said, I'm going to come back to the topic. It's World Heart Day as well. The kind of food intake we have over in Pakistan is usually very different. You know, I'm very sorry that I might not be able to say it very openly, but God forbid, if you're going to go take cabbage, you know, you will come back home and on internet you will see that cabbage is actually being made out of plastic. I'm not very sure whether it's true or not, but over here we have these problems, you know, that the kind of product intake we have in terms of food is just very different. Imagine we are having nuggets, we have all kinds of fast food, pizza. We are really not sure what kind of oil is being used as well. One of the other common problems for heart attack and strokes is cholesterol as well. Where are we? I mean, how do you think that we're going to protect ourselves? People in the West are, you know, they still feel young when they are 90 years old or 100 years old. And they're like, okay, you know,
than we are.
Even if they're obese, they've been looking after themselves. You know, they're obese because they've been eating a lot and that food was healthier rather than eating junk food all day long. But people over there are retiring and at the age of 60 and then they're living till 100, 120, 110 years. Over here, I think if we surpass 60 years old, I think that's about it. People are like, okay, I'm retired now and I'm looking forward to another journey. So, you know, we really need to stop that.
I think we are on the right topic, really, because food, that's an everyday issue.
Yeah.
And there's a double whammy when you talk about our food habits here. And by that I mean, on the one hand, some very unhealthy foods which are our traditional dishes. I mean, I'm talking
Nihari
about
pie.
halwa puri and pie and organ meats, you know. So taka-tak and so forth. And that's very unhealthy, very unhealthy. And now we have these deep fried nuggets, as you said, the burgers and the French fries, etc., and pizza with very fat-rich cheeses on it.
Exactly.
And a lot of salt. So this is the double whammy. And we have to focus on that. In the context of World Heart Day, and we are talking about cardiac disease and strokes, we have to focus on it. You know, you mentioned all the paranoia that we are seeing about fake foods and manufactured, you know, artificial things. There are ways around it.
Yeah.
My dear colleague Saidullah here is very fond of home gardening, and that you can do even if you have a very small place.
Yeah.
I was seeing a picture yesterday of a Gaza rooftop garden. Wasn't, you know, a very big place, but you can grow veggies and you can grow things that you consume yourself.
Right, absolutely.
It's a very healthy pastime, but more importantly, you get pure foods which are grown by your own hands. So that is critical. Of course, you can't grow everything, so you have to be vigilant on what you are buying and how you are preparing it. One thing I would mention, since childhood, one transition that I have seen is cooking at very high temperature now.
All right.
When I was a child with the wood and the earthen pot, that is slow cooking, and at a low temperature, you don't denature the fats or the oils that you are using for cooking.
Wow.
And also, you preserve the vitamins which are in the vegetables. When the oil is simmering at a very high temperature, it's going to burn all the vitamins which are heat labile in those vegetables. So you could be eating those and not getting the benefit.
So what you're trying to refer to is कि हल्की आंच पर खाना पकाएं.
Yes, this is there is something called as slow cooking out in the West also.
Yes.
So they have these techniques, but what you eat is
What you are.
critical. What you eat is what you are.
That is eventually well.
That's true. This cardiometabolic syndrome is a focus for us, because prevention and World Heart Day is about raising awareness in the general public
Right,
on what it is. And like we were talking earlier on, there's the volcano which is going to burst one day.
All right.
And we should know the lava that is heating up at the base of it. And that is the lifestyle. And that's the cardiometabolic syndrome, which is the other pandemic right now.
All right.
And the bad thing is that in developing countries, where the resources are limited, if you can, it really applies that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's really right. And sir, where you said that today, we are actually here to aware people about the basic things of heart diseases. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
So let's get to it. Now, moving on to you, sir, let's talk about the risk factors which may be causing, cardio diseases at all. Is it being a male? Is it being a female? Is it being a female after menopause? Is it something genetic? Let's talk about each and every single factor. Or being a smoker?
Or is it genetic?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We'll go to your earlier assertion when you spoke about the West obesity.
Okay.
People must understand we are different. Genetically, we are different. When we divided in the very beginning, people went to colder and more and the hotter areas, they change. The
Okay.
color changed, their body changed as well. You will see in the West, people may be more obese, but their heart disease sets or diabetes sets in later.
Okay.
Our bodies are different. We have less muscular mass. Our bodies are different to Nordics. You must have seen that. So we have a lower threshold of developing diabetes and coronary arteries or cardiovascular diseases. So that's one thing.
Okay.
Yes, you are what you eat. That's what has happened is, just like any developing country, West saw it first. When the food came and money came, resources came, people started eating more.
Okay.
But they saw the consequences, and also smoking came and other aspects. They realized that. So there is a paradox now. In the West, there is abundance, but the middle class, that if you look at them, they're usually lean,
Okay.
fit. I would mention, I'm 55 now.
Mashallah.
I cycle to work, and I did London Marathon last year, and I thought I was the older one, but there were 75, 80-year-old people running besides me.
Wow.
So I have to catch up with them. So, but here, as you rightly said, when we try to get to 60 after that, that is it. Allah Allah karo, baith jao, don't do anything. The same thing goes with our ladies as well.
Absolutely.
As you rightly said, premenopausal, menopausal, and the life ends for them, and after that, that's it. I think we must realize our culture, which was mostly rural-based culture,
Okay.
people were thin. They would eat and they would burn things. Yes, you can have pizza, you can have a burger, but can you burn it? That is the thing.
That's the point, right.
That is the most important thing, is by itself food is not bad, but it is what you're going to eat. If your food, your calories, and the quality and quantity, that has transformed. So what we have done is, we have adopted the Western lifestyle, but we have not adopted their good things.
Right,
Exactly.
absolutely. That makes sense. Sorry, Shazad, I just have to add one thing over here. You know, where you mentioned that we really don't burn it off. It's true. Just the other day, I was in conversation with an MMA fighter, and I was asking about his diet,
Yeah.
and you know, he was mentioning about
Was he?
dry fruits and almonds and everything. Ulumi. So on the show. So I was like, I love to have almonds. I love to have all sorts of dry fruits, but within a minute, I'm getting pimples. He's like, you have to burn it off as well.
Yeah.
That's where we forget to do as well. But now Shazad mentioned we have a very widespread culture of not going to see the doctor even if something is not wrong with us, right? And since we don't do that, when, well, I want to say a heart attack, God forbid, or something does strike us, we are taken by shock. So let's talk about CPR, or let's talk about the first aid that your
Let's talk
family
about-
members can give to you immediately before the ambulance reaches.
Talk about Angicid then. I think so.
Yes, sir.
So
please
God
let
forbid,
us
if
know.
something wrong happens, what are we supposed to do?
The very first thing is recognizing that something is going on.
Okay.
So knowing the symptoms of heart attack, of course, there are different kinds of heart diseases, and one of the things very dear to my heart is rheumatic heart disease, which hits poorer segments of the society where there is overcrowding, and girls are affected.
Okay.
And it changes their life, because when the heart valves are damaged, they end up having a valve replacement, and it's very difficult to manage that. That's a different topic, and we should give it a few minutes, hopefully.
Sure.
Of course, of course.
But we are talking about coronary disease and what happens when the heart attack hits.
Yeah.
The symptoms are important. Basically, one of the arteries of heart, a clot develops in it suddenly. It happens suddenly. So there is some discomfort. Most people do not experience a pain.
Yeah.
That's why it gets confused with other conditions. Most people would definitely feel some discomfort, and it could be heaviness, pressure, tightness in this area,
Okay.
sometimes radiating to the arm, sometimes to the jaw
Yeah.
and the neck or in the back. And you feel like heavy stomach and burping and gas on the
Acidity
stomach. This
sort
is
of.
the feeling. Then there could be sweating, and of course you smother a bit. So if that happens, many times it is precipitated by exertion. You know, somebody lifted something heavy, but it can happen even without that.
Okay.
So if those symptoms are occurring, then you have to think, and World Heart Day is to make people aware who are the people who are most likely
To have it.
Of course, there are some outliers. You know, I got a call, a young man who was climbing Trail 3 here on Margalas. He developed pain, and you know, when he was brought in, he had a heart attack. But usually, it is an overweight male with high blood pressure, smoker, and diabetes goes along with that too. Having a family history of early heart problems.
Right.
But because our parents had a good, healthy lifestyle, you could be without a family history because your father walked miles up until the 80s. So, and our lifestyle is different. So, keep that in mind. It can hit you just out of the blue. But typically, there is this sedentary lifestyle. Somebody who had barely, you know, I mean, we jokingly say twiddling the thumbs is the most exercise that somebody gets. You know.
And that is so true. But sir, you know, for laymen like us, we often tend to somehow mix having a panic attack with a heart attack? Because we can't tell at that moment, right?
I
The
did
feeling is absolutely surreal.
Nothing
It's
wrong. Nothing wrong in getting it checked immediately,
Right.
because when you think that it's a muscular pain, when you get a shot for a muscle pain, or taking a pain pill for that, or thinking that it is your stomach, nothing wrong in getting it checked.
Okay.
And one thing is critical in it, especially people who are living in cities, even though now the service is extended to the rural or semi-urban areas also. It is the emergency services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They will take you to the nearest facility, and across Pakistan right now, I am aware that in Punjab, in Sindh, in KPK, and some parts of Balochistan, the emergency medical services are available.
Exactly.
You call them and they will take you to the nearest facility. So getting checked, being alerted to it and getting there, because a certain percentage of heart attacks, they can cause death because of the irregular beat that accompanies it within the first hour. So getting to a facility is important, and that could be a life-saving thing.
Exactly.
Right, and
And
you know
thank
the
you very
funny
much
thing-
for mentioning that as well. But very quickly, sir, I think I'll, because we're very short on time as well, so I'll actually pose a few questions towards you as well. Because this recently just happened with me. I was traveling on motorway, and all of a sudden I could feel that my hands were numb, and my heartbeat was palpitating. And, you know, I made sure that I'm actually going to end up Chakri. And I ended up over there, and the first person I got my eye onto, I was like, you know, you need to call a doctor quickly. So doctor came rushing. He was like, you know, if your blood pressure is fine, probably you're not having a heart attack. But God forbid, if your blood pressure is not fine, we'll actually have to take you to a facility. Now, you know, there's always a confusion in a panic attack and a heart attack as well. What are those symptoms which one needs to know that, okay, God forbid, there's something seriously wrong with me, or probably it was just stress or anxiety? I think we need to have a thin line in between that, because it is very confusing. And then your brain is not actually kind of working with you as well in the entire situation. So you slip and you do not have control over the situation as well. What would you say, sir?
Yeah, and what some of the things, like in terms of probably an exercise or a medicine that one should take before the doctor reaches you?
Okay. Firstly, angina is a term we use when the artery is not fully clogged up and you develop chest pain when you exert yourself. That is, it comes up gradually and it is associated with exertion. So angina has got, firstly, the chest pain or chest discomfort. It's usually here, and it's not localized. It's more like
Central?
it's spread across.
Okay.
So one, it radiates to your neck
Okay.
and can radiate to your left, or if it's both arms, there is a more chance. So if it comes with exertion, that is usually, and it's not that severe, and it goes away at rest, that is angina mostly. If it's at rest, if it's more severe, it lasts longer, and it's the worst pain you ever had, that is more towards a heart attack. And as just mentioned, it's the first hour which is extremely important. People who die usually develop rhythm problem. Their heart goes funny very fast, 300, 400, 500 beats. And this is when, especially young people, they die at that time, because the heart is not
300
ready.
beats.
300 to 400.
Can we
call
control
it
that somehow?
ventricular fibrillation. Is not compatible with life.
Okay.
This requires a shock therapy. So this is where you can help. So when these things happen, when you have chest pain on exertion, that's angina, that's usually a chronic or new onset symptoms, you can perhaps wait and go to the doctor. But when the other thing sets in, which is severe chest pain, centrally, and causes sweating, apprehension, it's one of the most severe pain you had, the only thing you can do is inform straight away someone beside you, you need to be in the hospital. The only thing you can do is chew aspirin 300 milligram. The rest, nothing would work. You need to be attached to an ECG. You should be nearer to a defibrillator. This is, and if you get to the hospital on time, you can have a clot busting injection, which we call streptokinase. It's available in all the hospitals. Or if you're lucky and you can get into an angioplasty, within 2 hours, we can save a lot of your heart, because in this context, time is muscle.
Absolutely.
And if you
absolutely.
save the muscle, so you're saving the muscle, but you're also preventing the death, which happens because of arrhythmias. Angicid would work in angina, but in heart attack, Angicid, I'm afraid, would
Aspirin 300.
aspirin is the only thing you can do, but the most important thing, get into the hospital
In time.
as soon as possible,
Right.
and not driving yourself. Somebody
Of
should
course.
take you, and ideally in an ambulance.
Very quickly,
Okay.
sir, one last question, well, in fact, two last questions, which I would love to ask over here. So if there's no pain, but your hands are numb and your heart's beating faster, then?
Right. I mean, again, it's not everything is heart attack, and people could have panic attacks. People could have arrhythmias. You could have arrhythmias or rapid heartbeat or irregular heartbeat, are very common. And people drink a lot of coffee, caffeine, etc. That can cause it. That can trigger
That happened.
irregular
I
rhythms.
had 2 cups of coffee though.
Well,
The other
indeed.
day.
So all these things can trigger problems as well. One thing that is you must appreciate, but if you have certain things, as Dr. Habib has rightly, if you are in the right age group, you have got risk factors, you should be able to get things done beforehand. You should be on the right medication, and that's why we are about to launch a cardiometabolic, which is a primary and secondary prevention program. Dr. Habib Saab is leading it. I'm working alongside with him, and our plan is to get to thousands of people, because we think prevention is much cheaper.
Exactly.
It's more cost effective. We don't need to get to stents and bypasses if we get to that.
Exactly.
We can also, through that, we intend to work on the disease in the beginning. We will work on the diabetes, reversal of diabetes, weight loss, especially with the younger people. Go to the schools, ask them to cut down on unhealthy
food,
things,
yes.
take up more exercise, cut down on smoking, drugs, etc.
Wonderful, sir. So one last thing, and sir, all you have to say is yes or no. Having a loved one in your life, do you think that it can actually reduce all the risk factors for the heart?
Oh.
Having true love in life.
I would.
True or true?
True.
Is it a yes or no question, actually?
Well, I go a little further than that, and that
Quickly,
is,
sir.
of course, the answer is yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
wonderful.
But having a gracious personality, of course, as you grow older, this thing becomes even more critical. Your question, it applies to older folks even more. It is this support and this connection
Companionship.
that keeps you going.
Wonderful.
You know that it's very important. But graciousness that I was referring to, in Holy Quran, it is called nafs-e mutmain, right?
Yes.
So, instead of having a complaining and angry and unhappy attitude, because things happen every day.
Exactly.
How do you take it? You guys were talking about Mondays. Let me just briefly say
Certainly.
one thing.
Yes.
It's about 50 years that I have been working.
Okay. Mashallah.
And I would say that a great majority of those days, I go to work looking forward
Yeah.
to going to work.
Wow.
Wow.
I loved everything that I did. So that is the attitude. When there's a mason or an electrician or whatever you are, if you like what you do,
Absolutely.
That's it.
that attitude, that approach radiates.
And
And
this
that
is
makes your
exactly
heart
what we're
happy
going to
as
do
well.
as well. But thank you very much for being with us on such an important day and
Yes.
shedding light and making everybody out there aware of how we can actually protect ourselves. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this year's theme was scaling up prevention for heart attack and strokes as well. But right now, we're actually going to head out towards a short break, because when you guys will come back, हम आपके दिल के तारों को छेड़ेंगे. Ladies and gentlemen, we have actually been joined by a wonderful musician, and I think music actually relaxes you as well. So let's do that. Good morning.
I disappoint you or let you down? Should I been feeling guilty? Let the judges strong, 'cause I saw the end before it begins. Yet I knew you were blind, and I knew you had won. So I took what's mine by eternal right. Took your soul out into the night, and maybe over, but once up there, I am here for you if you only care. Touch my heart and touch my soul, change my life and all my goals. Love is blind and that I knew one. My heart is blinded by you. Kissed your lips and held your hair, shared your dreams and shared your bed. I know you well, I know your smell. I've been addicted to you. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. I'm a dreamer when I wake. You can break my spirit. It's my dreams you take. Does you move on? Remember me. Remember us and all we used to be. I seen you smile, I seen you cry. I watch you sleeping for you a while. I'll be the father of your child. I spent a lifetime with you. I know your fears and you know mine. We had a doubts, but now it's fine. And I love you, I swear that's you. I cannot live without you. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. Mera तुम्हारा होकर हमारा टूटा है बिखरा ओ जैसे सितारा मेरी आवाज सुन लेना मेरे गीतों में तुम वो अल्फाज सुन लेना जो हो जाते थे गुम मेरा प्यार तुम ही हो तुम ही दो जाना मेरे साथ तुम ही हो तुम ही दो बुलाना इरादे कैसे बुला दे टूटा है जो दिल वो रोए रुला दे मेरी आवाज सुन लेना मेरे गीतों में तुम वो अल्फाज सुन लेना जो हो जाते थे तुम मेरा प्यार तुम ही हो